for my purposes in this class, I was going to say that I resonate, or this verse really resonates with me quite a bit. وَوَجَدَكَ ضَالًا فَهَدَى, in the sense that, alhamdulillah, I was born and raised in America, and I was born and went to the masjid and went to all the Sunday school classes, Saturday school classes, programs that my masjid had to offer. But it wasn't until I was able to formally study Islam and study specifically the Sharia and the details of the Sharia and the nuances and things, and I understood those things that I didn't know anything about for the first time myself, that I really felt like, wow, I was really lost, and then God granted me guidance. And by, I wasn't lost as in I wasn't practicing. I was practicing, alhamdulillah. I came from a family that taught me to practice this deen, but everything was, you could say that things were not always in the right place. And that's what makes all the difference, is like there were things that we were so strict about and so rigid about, and it was like you had to do this. This was like a fard, and you cannot not do this, otherwise you're compromising your deen. And then you go and you study the law, and you're like, it's not like that at all. This is actually very much something that changes with time, place, and context. It's a flexible rule. It's not one of the stringent ones. And so that was something that I felt, that there was such a mercy from Allah to study directly, because it healed confusion, right? So like, I think we have, alhamdulillah, in our community, there's a lot of, everyone seeks to be practicing. But when you put something either too far to the right, where it's like, it's so strict, it's difficult, it's so difficult to do, you're making the deen itself something difficult to do, whether people intend to do that or not. And so at the same time, there are things that people treat and as if, oh, this is not that big of a deal. Oh, everyone does this. And it's like, no, that's a big deal. That's a really big deal. It's a really big deal. Backbiting, for example, really big deal. And there's like codes on what's considered backbiting, what's not considered backbiting. And in community culture, people say, oh yeah, I'll say this to their face. Oh, I'll say this directly to them, so it's not back. It's like, no, that's not it. That's still backbiting. So I feel like there was so much shifa, I would say healing, that took place from just directly studying it, being like, oh, first off, it's not as hard as everyone made it out to be. So I shouldn't be so like scared, like it's actually, there's so much rahmah in this deen and the way the law is designed. And the other thing was that, like, I just felt it was just a rahmah to know it directly. And so I really encourage people to, if they have a chance in life, to study directly, because there's nothing that can, like, don't take my word for it. Don't take anyone's word for it. Like, when you study it yourself and you see the design of this deen, especially the laws of the deen for yourself, then there's a comfort that gives you about this deen for the rest of your life. So when I read this verse and I read the interpretation of Imam al-Qushayri, that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he didn't have, let's say, like the details of the Sharia, they had not yet been revealed, right? But that this verse could potentially be referring to that the deen is, has fiqh, it has aqeedah, it has what we believe. It also has a path of spiritual purification. That's a very comprehensive deen. That specifically, though, here it could be the law. It could be the laws of this deen that had not yet been revealed. And it is such a comfort to know that God has revealed a way of living, right? If you think about the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, like sitting in a cave, and he's sincere to God in a cave for like a month and just seeking God, and then his prophethood is revealed, and with that, the law that we get to practice is also revealed with it. I just want to say there's a lot of mercy in the laws, and a lot of nuance, and almost any time you hear something that rubs you the wrong way about the Sharia, just my encouragement to you is to don't stop based on what you heard. Go and read directly yourself, because usually if it doesn't make sense, it's actually not true. That's usually. Now sometimes maybe the person's just conveying it badly or mistakenly or whatever, but like there are issues that people will treat as black and white today. Like there's no other opinion. Like this is nas, and it's wrong. It's a complete misreading of the fiqh. So that's okay if people do that, because I think it takes direct study in a qualified institution that actually gives you access to multiple opinions and not just one opinion, where people can actually see, okay, this opinion does exist, but it's not the only one. And there's other ones that are also valid, and they were used, and this is how they were used in Islamic history. So that's just really important. That the guidance of this deen is a comfort, and it's here. These verses are verses of comfort. Like, did he found you lost and then guided you. And we can maybe think about ourselves even in terms of our own lives in times when we may have felt a little bit lost in terms of either knowing our deen or practicing our deen or whatever, and the comfort that we have in knowing that Allah somehow brought us back to Him, or brought us back into a sense of clarity and guidance and with regards to our religion. And may Allah continue to guide all of us and grant us increased guidance. Ameen. Yeah.
What would you then recommend to many married Muslims, for example, who might not be able to access what I presume is maybe Arabic texts?
Yes.
Are there other sources you recommend? And find those nuances?
So the first thing is everyone should seek to learn their fard ayn. Like, the fard ayn for each person is that which God will ask us about on the Day of Judgment. So we have specific circumstances. It's not just how do I pray and how do I fast. It includes those things, but also if someone is a doctor, what are the ethics of practicing medicine, right? Like, that's a knowledge they need to know. Someone who's in business, what are the business laws in Islam, right? So, like, whatever aspect of the law that they themselves are specifically responsible for in their lives, that's like the first thing that everyone should study and seek to learn. How can they study it? Especially, like you said, not everyone knows Arabic. There are different programs online, even YouTube videos, but that we already have up on the Majlis website. But I would suggest like a very organized way they could potentially do it is the Anas ibn Malik Seminary, because it includes the Fard Ayn topics as well as others. But that's a starting point, because again, each person lives a little differently, and so they may need to know more things about certain things than others. Married people need to know about the fiqh of marriage. Like, lots of married people do not know the fiqh of marriage, so that's like non-stop office hours. So so that's a we should do a class. We should do like a full class at the Majlis. That's like all Muslim family law, but I'm afraid that's going to turn into like a really big counseling thing. But it's like the minimum of what's needed, right? Is the things that God will ask us about, and then but I think that's something that really helps understand, like, you can do that through Anas ibn Malik Seminary. You can do that through other online programs. You don't need to know Arabic to do Anas ibn Malik Seminary, and it is on demand, so you don't have to be live to follow the classes. You can, and you have access to the teachers if you have specific questions. But then, but there's more in depth. September we're starting the Imam al-Dadir Seminary, and that's the Advanced Studies program, and that's like really wanting to go deeper into the Sharia for those who have time and capacity, and the beginning of it is going to be Arabic. So people will hopefully, inshallah, be able to, by the third year, we're hoping, be able to read the Arabic text themselves. But one of the topics that's like really helpful in this regard is usul al-fiqh. So any kind of intro to usul al-fiqh helps people realize that like there's a methodology to law. And if you understand that all the madhahib each had their own methodology, and that's how they arrived, there's a methodology to how they dealt with hadith, right? There's a and there's flexibility. The law works in a very flexible way. And, there's it helps you to see it as something vast rather than something extraordinarily constricted, because it is vast. And the cut and paste approach to law really hurts people. But if you learn usul, and if you learn especially differences amongst the madhahib on different issues and how they arrived at those conclusions, you don't need to know every single madhab, but you can study one madhab, you can study its methodology, and you can understand that others took a different approach, and that it's all considered valid. Like in our Sharia, it's all considered you can. You're not going to say that. Well, this person is praying like that, so it's incorrect. No, there's a valid opinion for it. So, and then beyond like the ibadat, I want to say in muamalat is where I think many times people get really confused. And again, especially in family law. So, this is something that I think like we just need a lot more community education on the nuances of it, because we get things all the time in office hours, and it's shocking because it will come from the masjid they went to. You know, like a woman might call and say, I heard it's haram for me to get a divorce. And I'm like, who told you it was haram? Like, we have talaq, like we have a way that women, and then, well, I heard that I'll never smell the fragrance of paradise, and they'll tell the whole story, and I'm like, who did you talk to? And I shouldn't have asked that question, but but like you're shocked because you're like, there's knowledge on this subject. Like, how did you come to this conclusion? And there's a lot of things people are just not aware of, and so they don't know they have certain rights. Most Hanafi women do not know that you can legislate the right to divorce yourself in your own marriage contract. You can reserve the right to divorce yourself, like out of the marriage. But you don't have to go to the qadi and all that stuff. No, like there's a whole way to write it up so that the woman herself can be like, I'm leaving, and and she can pronounce it, and it counts. Everyone's shocked. See shocked faces. Yeah. It exists. So so there's a lot in our law that we just don't know. Yeah, so what was the question again? Yeah, sorry. Yeah, alhamdulillah. What was that? Muamalat is like interpersonal relations. Yeah. Or like business relations, but like also some put family law under that, and some people put family law as ahwal, like put it under another heading called ahwal shakhsiyah. But the point is that like there's a lot more nuance, and direct study really helps people just have appreciation for what there is. And even reading scholarly papers and just maybe we're not aware of certain things, but there's answers to questions that were literally written in the 70s, like research papers and like fatawa that are modern issues that came out in the 70s and 80s. And they exist in Arabic, right? But they just haven't become popularized in the English-speaking world. So we'll treat it like no one's ever dealt with this before. But it's like, no, I don't even know how long ago the 70s or 80s are. It's like 40 years ago? Yeah. 50. It's like shocking, yeah. People were dealing with this half a century ago, but we just didn't even realize that was the case. But like usul al-fiqh really, I think like the principles of Islamic jurisprudence and learning even how the madhahib might differ in certain ways in how in their legal like reasoning and methodology is very helpful. It's very useful because it gives you an appreciation rather than cut and paste, which makes people feel really scared. Like cut and paste makes people feel really anxious and worried, whereas understanding the process, the legal process, makes people, I think, gives people great comfort and relief. Wallahu a'lam.